first thing I wanted to talk to everybody about is the first time you remember feminism and gaming somehow combining in your life, because obviously we all came to gaming and feminism through separate paths, but when did they first sort of collide for you? What's your sort of anecdote for that? Does anyone want to dive in? Jen, how about you?
Yeah, well, I think that in my mudding days, I was a nymph, which was a female-only class, race, get it right. And I used to wear lots of diaphanous layers of clothing and go around and be very sexy. And I really liked the fact that I could basically get all these silly boys to do lots for me because they thought I was completely incapable of doing anything because I was a little girl. And so I felt that was empowering, and I felt that I was taking control of it. And I think, but I think that as I've got older, I've recognised that actually I was just reinforcing the stereotypes and supporting the patriarchy in my own way. So later, when I moved into playing on World of Warcraft, I was the main tank for my guild in the game, and we would raid regularly, and so I was sort of always at the front and doing the most important job in my opinion, but it was always funny because the second that I spoke when we were on the voice chat and they heard that I was female, there was this hush would go through. And it was really amusing. I mean, obviously, once we got to know people, it was great. But initially, it was, when there were new people in the group, they were always like, and then it was really interesting, actually, how they treated me. So, yeah, I think that was probably where I realised quite how male dominated the gaming world was.
Alex, how about you? Where do your feminism and gaming overlap?
I think probably one of the earliest times I can remember is to do with Tomb Raider, actually. And it was while I was in primary school and coming across another girl in my class who actually liked it and knew what it was about. I remember feeling very excited that this was the case. So I guess some part of me must have known that even though I wasn't fully aware of it, that gaming was perceived as like a more masculine activity, I suppose. And it was just really great to find somebody else who I could chat to about Tomb Raider and get some tips on where to find secrets and all that sort of thing. And then I suppose as a follow-up from that, a few years down the line, I remember my mum bought me some Tomb Raider pyjamas from Marks and Spencer's, and it turned out they were only in stock in the boys section in the children's department and not the girls section. And she actually raised that point with the lady at the till and said, well, why is it just in boys? Because girls play Tomb Raider too. And yeah. I just thought that was quite odd, really.
And boys want to wear Lara Croft on them.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
As close as they can get.
And sadly, all too common, yeah. Matt, what about you then? Where would you say, like, because obviously you come to feminism slightly more recent, mainly because you're younger than the rest of us, however, but, where do you say there's your overlap?
So my feminism was born from listening to The Guilty Feminist. So I'm sure a lot of feminists will be very aware of that incredibly awesome show. It was after that, you start noticing the reality of the world, and it slowly reveals itself. And I started noticing it with TV and film, and ooh, everyone is white. 90% of them are male. Most of them are white males. All of them look like me, something that I've never noticed before, obviously, because everything is reflected in me. And then started looking at games in that way. Realised that everything that is wrong with the rest of the world is also wrong in the gaming world. That is not just in terms of the games that are produced, it's the games, the way that they're developed. And it's a good thing. It's the way it's like seeing the Matrix for the first time. You can either, I can't remember which pill means which, but whichever one. Whichever one means staying awake and seeing the world as it is, that's the way forward. That's the way to truly enjoy the world and truly appreciate the best of the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, the Wachowski sisters have spoken quite a lot about how they're annoyed that the red pill has been co-opted by some of the most toxic people on the internet, when of course it was always meant to be the opposite thing. The red pill was meant to open your eyes to these rather than to the conspiracies. I mean, for me, I spend a lot of my life on one of what is considered one of the most toxic games on the internet, which is Rust. And I absolutely love Rust. It is an open world sandbox. It is on all the time. I currently have a base out there somewhere that somebody is probably offline raiding because the wipe's happening in about an hour. Every month the whole game resets. But it's beautiful, and it's this wonderful world with sunsets and sunrises and snows and sand and grass, and I can go and build whatever I want. And yes, okay, people are going to come and swear and shout at me and shoot at me and throw horrific racist, misogynistic abuse quite often, but it's still a lovely world where I can make it the way I want it to be.